Welcome back to the Kirk Miller Podcast. Today I have the brother of a man who I've had on the podcast previously, and that was Lewis, your brother. Today I have the brother of Lewis, Carl, who is... What is your role exactly within Allsopp? So Lewis is the... Chairman.
And I'm the CEO.
Yeah.
Honestly, the glamorous titles are just titles. A lot of what we do, shared responsibilities at Allsopp and Allsopp. So I've been an MD, I've been a CEO. It's just a title. But ultimately, me and Lewis are the business owners of Dubai's biggest real estate brokerage, Allsopp and Allsopp.
No, absolutely. Well, firstly, mate, thank you for giving up your time.
Mate, no, thank you. It's a pleasure being on with a fellow Coventryian. Is that the word we're looking for? Coventry boy.
Actually, we're trying to put Coventry on the map, aren't we?
Yes. Not when I say to me, where are you from? Coventry, where's that? A lot of people here, so yeah.
Yeah, no. The reason I wanted to get you on, Carl, I mean, Lewis's episode was fantastic, but there's only so much I could cover within the time we had. Is we have a lot of people listening to this who are business owners in different sectors, and what I want to unpack today is the dynamic between you and Lewis. And I mean, what you've built in Allsopp is incredible. But I want to ask some questions that I'm sure weren't really related to Lewis, but in the bigger picture of the business that I'm sure will help a lot of other business owners, but also draw out more specifically as well. Like, there's obviously something unique, different that you guys are doing from a recruitment perspective as well to actually grow the company the way you have. But also as well, like so many people have had on who are successful in business, it's also how do you manage all the other pieces of the puzzle in life? Because look, we've all got the same 168 hours in a week.
Yeah.
And what I'm fascinated by, even from a selfish perspective, Carl, is how have you built and continue to maintain the business you have, the role you have, whilst two young daughters, you're married, you travel lots, and it's just trying to unpack that as best we can, because I just think there's so many business owners, whether you're a small business, big business, or even if you work within a company, that just simply struggle to manage all the different balls in life. So, mate, if it's good with you, I want to dive straight into it.
I'm ready.
So, take us back to your journey, Carl. So, like, where you are now certainly wasn't how it started.
Yeah.
Now, I know you and Lewis clearly originated from the same household,
yes.
Like, an inspiration from your father and stuff like that. But how did your journey start?
So I'm the older brother of Lewis.
So what's the age difference?
22 months.
Okay.
Incredibly close. But like, long story short, went to the same school, same house, as you know. When I left school, I went to become a trainee estate agent at a company called Newman Estate Agents.
So was that before Lewis got into it?
Yeah, I most things in real estate, I've been the trailblazer in the family to how things started. So I started first at 16 years old. Lewis was still in school, doing all the rubbish jobs like making tea and sending bloody brochures and leaflets out to people, all the rubbish jobs you can think of, and kind of grew through the ranks there at, I think I was there 8 years. 2.5, 3 years into me being in that job, Lewis managed to get a job there, and obviously there was a bit of difference in seniority. I was doing something different to what he was doing. And yeah, that in short was the how I started into the real estate side of things. Ultimately Lewis was there for a year, which he talked about, ended up getting sacked because he wasn't particularly behaving. And he went to Dubai, and ultimately I got really annoyed being the older brother, the pride setting in that my younger brother was earning my yearly salary in, a week or a month or whatever it might have been. So pride took over. I was, how can I put it? Probably a little bit arrogant, if I'm honest with you, because I was very confident of what I'd done in the estate agency. I was the best at what I'd done, and whether it was putting the most properties on the market, selling the most, getting the most fees, I was the best. I was pretty arrogant with that. And one day, a fateful night after Coventry City Football Club game, went to TGI Fridays with my dad, started moaning at my dad, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And his words were, which Lewis has explained, pour me a drink. And I use that phrase today, meaning if you want something a lot, do something about it. And ultimately I did, move to Dubai. So followed Lewis out there. It's weird how it worked. He followed me into real estate. I followed him into Dubai.
Yeah.
So.
And when you first moved to Dubai, did you work in the same company?
No. It was mad because I was so experienced. So I went there basically from scratch. And Lewis, I think, in his own way, was running a team. There was a manager somewhere, didn't want to hire me because he felt, well, I've had it hard. You have it hard. So
really, he wanted his older brother to suffer.
Yeah, a little bit. And to be honest, our younger brother's just joined us now. I want him to suffer.
Why?
Because I think it's a good test of who you are, and I think you'll appreciate more at the end when success comes, what you had to go through. And I think, looking back now, Lewis done the right thing by not sticking me in with him and maybe being labelled as a favour. I went to go and work for a company. My first day with this company in Dubai was, Carl, there's your laptop, there's your phone, good luck.
Okay.
Swear to God, didn't know where the toilets were, who my manager was, how to use the system, how to sell a house in Dubai or whatsoever. In my second day, I sold a house. That doesn't happen. But
why do you think you did that? How did that happen?
Just made it up, spoke to people, spoke to clients, absolutely bumbled along, and just thought, if I speak to as many people as I can, I probably fell into the deal, if I'm honest with you. But the reality is it wasn't through lack of effort. You know, there was a lot of effort there, and it happened. So, you know, I think it took people by surprise in the offices. And look, 3 or 4 months into working for this company, I said to Lewis, Lewis, honestly, knowing from the background we're from, we're super regimented, this estate agency we come from, really well trained, process driven, we can do it so much better. The rest is history. Allsopp was formed. It was bloody hard. We're 17 years in. Loads of things that have gone right. Quite a lot of things gone wrong too. And yeah, like I say, it's been people look at where things are now, but it's actually been, it feels like a long time coming. It's been a long journey to get to where we are.
What was just taking you back, because this will resonate with a lot of agents, maybe on the start of their journey. What was your biggest struggle? Even though you had success, obviously, in the UK, but apart from the deal that you nailed in 2 days, like Lewis threw you in at the deep end. What was your biggest struggle when you first came?
I think it's multiple things, because you're learning the roads, how to drive, where to go. You know, I think when I moved over, there's no Google Maps, or maybe just started at Google Maps. I didn't have my phone. I never felt so thick in my life.
Why?
Even though I've done it back home, it's so different here. So you got
what is different? Because there might be some UK agents thinking about, maybe Dubai. Like, what would you feel is the biggest difference? Maybe back then and now.
No, in the UK, you typically represent a seller, one person. So you're kind of their guardian angel there. You represent them to try and get them the best price. Whereas in Dubai, you are the broker, you're the middleman to facilitate getting a deal done. So yes, you know, an owner asks you to sell that on their behalf, but ultimately you're also working for the buyer as well, who also pays you a fee. So it's kind of navigating that relationship and trying to get your head around that actually not actually working for one party. Now you're sitting in the middle and trying to get the best outcome for both. Processes are really different. I mean, 2008, it was wild west. Very, very little legislation. DLD everything was paper based. You know, contracts were sent over fax machines. I mean, like, we're talking old school. So, look, multiple things. Coming to a new country, being overwhelmed by that, the roads, learn the job, and thinking, okay, well, there's so much to learn, and what you have to do, and how do you speak to people? Because in the UK, from a estate agency side of things, we're talking 17, 18 years ago, it's typically, yes, sir, no, sir, very formal. A
little bit different to Coventry.
A little bit. No, but honestly, that's what it's like when I was working in the estate agency. You have to be a little bit more formal, people. You can't talk to people as a friend. Whereas here, because it is a different language, or languages, you have to speak slower and maybe a little bit more informal for people to understand what you're saying.
Okay.
So it was all of that. You couldn't speak in such a formal way because people don't warm to that here. Strangely.
Yeah. And then obviously you and Lewis, even though you're close, again, I'm going to be really nosy here myself. Who are you in the business and who is Lewis? And what are your strengths, do you feel? Or your biggest value to the business versus his?
I think if you asked our staff, and to be fair, I've had feedback come back to me indirectly. I'm the serious one. So if you want to get, excuse my French, if you want to get shit done, you come to see me. I'm not saying Lewis is everyone's friend, because he's certainly not everyone's friend, but Lewis is very much more man of the people. And to be honest with you, I think over the years, you don't set out to be, I'm going to be this way. You know, I consciously knew that I shouldn't be like Lewis, because every business needs an opposite. They need a plus and an equal. So you kind of fall into that role, and perhaps a little bit more focused, more driven in terms of, forward planning, forward thinking, and not less approachable, but I'm very, very, very busy, and I'm always thinking ahead. Whereas Lewis might feeds off being around the floor. So, yeah, I'd say I'm the one that I'm probably the one that's probably a little bit more serious than him, and that's not a negative on what his skill set.
No, yeah, but you do need complementary skills within the business, right? Certainly when you built the giant that you have. I mean, how many people have you got now within the company?
Last head count was 629, and look, in any business you kind of fluctuate month to month, right? But there's a very clear plan at the start here, which I'm not trying to pat my own shoulder here, but there's a plan that I put in place, which we call it Project 500. Project 500 is 500 real estate brokers, not total staff in business, by June 24. So we've got 4 months to achieve that. Bang on track. I have reports every week about how we're going to do to get that. The reason we're working towards that Project 500 ultimately is to gain share in multiple marketplaces across Dubai, different communities, and Dubai is growing, so why shouldn't we?
Yeah. When you and Lewis first started, and it was just you, what was the primary thing you had to focus on? You just decided you two are going to come together. What's the most important thing that you need to focus on when you first start that?
When we first started, me and Lewis are quite strong personalities. We're very opinionated, very hot-headed also. And in the first couple of years of business, there was lots of clashes. Lots of
with you and Lewis?
Lots of clashes, like differing.
Was it hard because you're brothers, of course?
Massively.
Yeah.
Different opinions, hard, because we're close, we know each other inside out. Yeah. And unfortunately, the clashes were also visible. People, they were perhaps in front of team members now, which was, looking back, a regret. There's also naivety. He was 22, I was 24 years old, starting a business. Yeah. You're learning on your feet. No one told us how to run a business. But ultimately, when you run a small business, you both have to do a bit of everything. You can't just say, I'm doing finance and you're doing this. You're doing ops. You're too small to focus on one thing. So whether it's working with the staff, coaching them and kind of helping them close deals, or looking for new office space, you have to do a bit of everything. So much so, even at it was 11 o'clock at night, multiple nights during the week where me and Lewis are hoovering the offices.
Wow.
In the first year.
But people don't see that now, because you look at, what you've built now, obviously I gratefully spoke to your team at the start of the year. The office it's unbelievable what you guys have built, but people don't see the struggle, right, as well. Like hoovering the offices and things like that. But
cleaning the cups, the coffee mugs, because they were used today, because we didn't have a cleaner. We couldn't afford a cleaner, so me and Lewis are cleaning up when we're getting ready for the next day, because it was a sense of pride. Yeah. Because we couldn't afford a cleaner, I want to make sure when the staff come in the next day, you've got a clean office, you've got clean cups. You feel like you've come into a place where it's at least, we're treating it with respect as well, not just letting everyone else do it.
And what was your living conditions at that time? As in, did you rent? Did you buy? Where did you live?
No, when I moved here, I was room share.
Okay.
I moved over my own. My wife came out. She wasn't my wife then, but 4 weeks afterwards, there was myself and 2 of my best friends living with us, which when you're 24 years old, I'm living with my partner, 2 party boys living with you. Pretty challenging, I've got to be honest, because you're on different wavelengths, and they both worked with us.
Yeah, so again, note to any agents listening to this back, because I know there'll be a truckload of potential agents or agents who probably come to Dubai, see the shiny object of the glitz and the glamour of Dubai, and they're just going to click their fingers. They don't see that side of things.
No, that's it. The reality is I lived like a tramp for quite a long time, several years. To the point where I had a loan in the UK, which I had to make a decision where it was either pay my rent and be able to live the next month, or basically not pay Lloyd's TSB loan. That was a tough decision to make, and it was for several months where I didn't and couldn't pay that loan, which obviously was not great for your credit record, but it's kind of, there's some of the decisions you've got to make, because I knew at some point money would come and I'd be able to pay that off and deal with it all in one go.
Yeah. So I think Lewis shared on the episode, he's got, live like a tramp until you can afford to live like a king.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. A lot of people when they move to Dubai, it's very attractive, right? It's the dark arts of Dubai, the clubs, the parties. You feel like you want to experience that when you're here, but unfortunately, it's very expensive to do that, and it's a quick way of losing all your money. I would much rather experience that and I say this to new starters, experience it when you've got money and do it right. If you want to get a table or whatever, that's cool, but do it when you've got money, not when you haven't.
And how disciplined were you when you first came to Dubai on that note? Because I think whether it's people coming, even in my sector, Carl, to move their online business here, become a coach here, they can get sucked in by all that bullshit and, spunk their money, to put it bluntly. Like, how disciplined were you? Like, how much did you go out drinking and stuff like that?
Yeah, bloody hell. Like, during my 20s, I drank a lot, maybe twice, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But being the older sibling and also being in a very professional work environment, 16, 17 years old, I've always been told I was older than my years.
Where do you think that comes from?
I think being around adults at a very young age, working in a professional environment, I think being the older sibling, that sense of responsibility of, I've got to be the one to kind of lead the way for my brothers. So I've always been responsible. I've always budgeted, but ultimately I've had a good time as well. But I've made sure I've not used my rent money as drink money. And I have had friends, by the way, that have been here with me. They're not here anymore. They've used their rent money as drink money, and they're not here anymore.
So you must have seen a lot of people come and go then.
A lot, and close friends as well, sadly. But for some of them that are not here anymore, not in Dubai, it was the best thing that ever happened to them, because they've gone on and met their now wife and had children, and it's they're very, very successful careers in Coventry. So it was the best thing, and it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do is sack my best friend.
Really?
The worst thing I've ever had to do in business by far. Sat there because he wasn't turning into work, and I was to a degree shielding him for a period of time, because people asking questions. There's only so long that happens before people start questioning you as a leader. And I sat him down and said, look, can't be here anymore. And it was a very upset moment both, because we both knew at that point that was his ticket home to Coventry, and he wouldn't be here anymore.
That brings us on to some questions which I'm sure a lot of agents listening to this, or potential agents. What makes a truly great agent in your eyes? What are the qualities that separate the top 1% from the rest? Like, you've been doing this a long time, 18 years. You must have noticed patterns and trends and traits in certain people. But what do you feel truly separates a great agent from an average agent?
It's interesting because actually demographics and location, I think there's a patterns in people that behave in a certain way and do well in business, for example. And I'm not stereotyping everyone because everyone's different, but people from up north, superb.
Why?
Working class mentality. Okay. Very friendly. Perhaps someone from London, for argument's sake, a little bit different in terms of how they're used to life. Ultimately, I think the best people that I work with and continue to work with now are the most patient ones, because I was speaking to someone yesterday, and this person is saying, I can't be here much longer if I don't do X. I said, well, it doesn't work that way. You've got to put the hard yards in and put the effort in where you might not see rewards for quite some time, but actually the rewards will come at some point, so long as you're doing the same things for so long. So being patient, massive is listening. So many salespeople just yap. And it's probably one of my biggest strengths, if I'm honest with you. When I'm listening, when I'm with people, I'm listening to what you're saying, because I know exactly what I need to say to make sure something connects with us, whether it's selling or with staff.
Was that a learnt skill, or was that something you've always had? Or
probably learnt, if I'm honest with you, because valuing someone's house in the UK, if you just run off a load of spiel, that person what I say might not resonate then. So it's all about asking the right questions. If I ask the right questions, there's going to be one or two things in there where I think, okay, well, I'm not going to say all of this, but I'm going to say this and this. Saves me spieling all that, and them two things I've mentioned are going to resonate with you massively to want you to use me as your estate agent. So it's about asking the right questions. It's about listening. Remember, we've got two of these and one of them. Being patient, being able to suffer.
Tell me more about that.
Suffering is huge. I think people being able to endure and suffer is an incredible trait. And not everyone's built that way, by the way. Some people at the first sign of danger or the first sign of resistance, it's like, I can't do this. But the best people have suffered the most in our business. For example, there's a guy called Jamal Tazghani, Lewis's brother-in-law. He didn't do a deal for 7 months. Didn't earn a penny for 7 months. Nothing whatsoever. Most people, if I'm honest with you, would have quit after 4. because not anything, and they can't see that anything's happening. He suffered and endured because he knew he was getting closer and closer and closer. He's one of the biggest earners in the business now.
Wow.
But there are multiple stories where people, so long as they're consistent, they do the right things every single day, and they are prepared to suffer, good things will come.
What do they need to do to be consistent every day? Are there any specific rituals you recommend? I mean, I know it's specific to different people, but
look, the most important thing is for me personally speaking is getting up a bit earlier, getting yourself in the gym, or get moving. Even if you're not a gym goer, that's fine. People call me a gym freak. I'm not a gym freak. I like to feel better during the day because I've moved in the morning. Mm-hmm. So try and get up, go for a walk, move in the morning, get in the office earlier. I see people rolling at 5 to 9, quarter to 9. I'm thinking, you are already on the back foot for the start of the day already, because you just come in and now you're going to have a coffee and maybe go have a vape at 9:30. Your day's not probably going to start till 10:30. So for me, I was always, even in Coventry, by the way, it's dark, wet and cold, was always in at 8, 10:08, sit at my desk for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, look at the news and kind of understanding what's happening today in Dubai or Dubai real estate that I need to know that I can tell someone that day. So I would ensure that really, if you're coming in the morning, get in an hour before anyone else, see what's going on, clear your emails, and then between that 9 and 11 a.m. spot, you're really following up from what happened the day before. What did happen the day before? Did you have any viewings? Did you have any offers? Can you make sure that they're off your desk? And there's a not famous book, but a book I read many, many years ago was given to me called Eat That Frog. Eat That Frog is basically get all the shit out of the way first you don't like doing, don't want to do, because once that's done, it will allow you to be creative or do the stuff that you want to do or need to do for the rest of the day. It's about getting the bad shit out of the way first and then dealing with the stuff that really is going to move the needle afterwards.
Yeah, the key word that screams out for me from that is preparation. It's preparation, because in order to get up early, you've got to be disciplined to go to bed the night before.
I'm weirdly organised, by the way. So you talked about this where we are in this podcast studio, about where we are. I know every single day, this week, next week, week after, days I train, times I train. I know when I've got a podcast, what meetings my staff are. I know I've even booked in my calendar when my holidays are booked in, so they're blocked out in my diaries. I'm weirdly because I know I'm then accountable to that, and I can't just wake up in the morning and say, what should I do today? I like to know what's happening when it's happening, and the little things about sticking in gym times in your diary. People might think, well, yeah, it's a bit stupid, but I'm going to go to the gym anyway. No, well, I'll actually stick it in my diary, so I know in the morning when I flick up, I'm going to do it anyway on autopilot, but it's there. I'm accountable to it.
Yeah. So it's like you rely on habits and things being scheduled rather than motivation to do or not do that
Motivation is fucking bullshit. It's fucking, honestly.
I want you to talk about that, because there'll be a stack of people listening who already at this stage of the age. Remember when I come on the podcast, you said to me, what was it?
It's Quitters Friday, Quitters Friday or something like that. Basically, second Friday of January is when most people will tend to quit their journey of health, or at least given to some degree, whether it's food or not work out, whatever it might be. But motivation is, I don't get me started on it. Like, people tell me, I don't feel motivated. Oh, fuck off. You don't feel motivated because you've not done things before how you feel that help you feel better, whether it's gym, whether it's preparation, whether it's...
Even work, like you said, you're saying to these agents, I mean, your friend who, 7 months before he took a deal, surely he just had to keep scheduling follow-ups and calls and doing the work.
Listening to the right people, taking the right information, following that, making sure that he's turning up every day, he's doing the right things. And listen, if you do the right things, like with going to the gym and eating healthily, if you do the right things consistently, over the long term, the results are going to be significantly better than what they are when you started. So this motivation thing, for me, it's all about creating habits. It's about routine, consistency, and keep doing it. And ultimately, good things will happen. You'll feel better at the end of it anyway.
Yeah, 100%. What's the biggest mistake you see new agents make?
Want too much too soon. I think we're in a world where people, Instagram, selling sunsets, all of these programs that glamorize real estate. Real estate ain't like that. Let me tell you now. Real estate is tough. It's hard. There are most of the days in the month you don't do a deal. You might do a deal twice, 3 times in a month. So you're talking about 28 days, 27 days where you are getting rejection. It's fucking tough. So wanting too much too soon, not listening, not following instruction. It's really important when you start something, whether it's gym or real estate, that if we say to you, do this, do this, do this, do this. If you do it, there's a very good chance the outcome's going to be pretty good. But what tends to happen is people come in, They get trained, they get X, Y, Z, and all of a sudden week 2, it's like, it's not working. I'm going to do it my own way. I'm going to do something a bit different. And again, history and results would suggest that doesn't work, and people don't tend to work. So follow the plan, stick to your routine, make sure you listen to your team, your leaders, be patient, be prepared to suffer, and look at other people around you. People are doing well around you. You know, someone who said to me yesterday, you know, I don't know where, I just don't think I can be successful. I said, why do you think that? And they fed me a load of bullshit. I said, well, what about this person, this person, this person? Yeah, but it's all right for them. And I'm thinking, you're wasting my oxygen here. Like there's evidence around you that this works and it can work for you, but you're making decisions based on the shit that you've listened to, whether it's outside the company, inside the company, or mum or dad back home because they wanted to come home. That's influenced your brain, and you've given up already.
So obviously mindset is absolutely crucial.
Being single-minded and not, you know, had I listened to my parents, I don't think we would have owned Allsopp and Allsopp, you know, whether it's my mum or whatever it might be, or different people. So I just think you've got to kind of stick to what you think's right and go with it and be patient.
Yeah. Which brings me on to, obviously I look at his stories all the time, and obviously I was blessed to come and speak. It was the Ignite. Yeah. But you've got 2 other things I'm right in saying. Is it Elevate and Inspire?
Elevate, Inspire and Invest, which was our first one we did yesterday. So me and Lewis...
And what are they? Tell me more about them.
So look, the big thing about these Inspire series is basically sharing knowledge from the top leaders of the business management level to people that have been inside the business less than 12 months, giving back information. All of my managers in the business, all of them have been incredibly successful real estate agents, like incredibly successful. So I'd be very confident them to share and part information with them. So the Inspire is that. The Invest series is what we did yesterday. The Ignite is the one which is the year which kicks off getting people motivated. You were great to share your time with us and kind of sharing people about good habits and, you know, how to get people in the right routines for the start of the year. So, you know, we do these series is to share knowledge, to improve people. I do feel like learning is an ongoing thing. I don't think you can ever stop learning anything. Even myself now, I love learning. You know, whether it's watching YouTube stuff or listening to people.
What do you love learning about most within business? What fascinates you most? I know we've gone back and forth a little bit about certain books and stuff like that, and it sounds like you're the executor, very much the numbers man as well.
I feel like it's a responsibility to know more than anyone else in the business. Because you're the leaders, not pressure, but it's my job to make sure that I've got things to talk about, or, you know, different perspectives, and be able to share my experiences with other people. So, you know, I'm obsessed with learning new things, whether it's AI, which we talked about before, you know, actually understanding it. The word gets thrown around so much, not enough people understand it. But, you know, people, but it really annoys me. We were talking about someone yesterday about WEO Bank, and people are like, I don't know how to use it. I'm not too sure. I said, well, I wouldn't know, but I've spent time just figuring it all out, having a little play around, trial and error. Same with AI, whether it's you know, different things in business. I like to practically learn, then try it and see if it works for me. But a lot of people think, oh, it's too much effort. I can't be asked to do that. It's, you know, get it.
Which comes back to what you said about wanting the outcome rather than, okay, let's put the hard yards in. I mean, if you're doing that now and you're at the top of the tree within the company, but you're still putting in the work to learn and going, what's the latest innovations? What can help me do things quicker, faster, or better? You know, if you're doing that, and you've got people who are at the bottom of their ladder and they're not doing that, then would you say, what would you say that is the biggest major red flag that an agent isn't right for your company, or just simply shouldn't be pursuing a career as a real estate? Because it sounds great on paper, right?
Yes.
And look, there are lucrative rewards, which, you know, we coach some of your guys and they're doing very, very well, right? There are lucrative rewards, especially in Dubai at the minute. But what are the red flags you see in people who just can't cut the mustard, or you...
Look, we have from day 0 to day 90, we have something called mastery checkpoints. The mastery checkpoints are something that the HR team and the team manager will, on a weekly basis with every single new starter, check in to see where they're at. For example, whether it's activity, where they're at in their mind, what are the outcomes from their activity, to understand, you know, firstly, are you is the work going in to begin with? And if the work is going in, okay, what's being said and how can we help change and mould that? And then there's an agreement then in the following week or the week after that, there's an agreement to say, okay, well, this and this needs to be achieved. And, if that's happening, we're seeing progress and where you need to be. It's not ultimately about doing your first deal. It's about little checkpoints that we think, okay, if you're doing this and this, ultimately the result's going to come anyway. So we do the mastery checkpoints on a regular basis. And ultimately, if people aren't following instruction and not tracking, despite being guided and saying, look, this is where you need to be week 1, this is where you need to be in week 2. And if they aren't doing it and not following instruction, typically, if I'm honest with you, we will move people out. We won't keep people at desks. And I don't want to be a hire and fire company, but you've got to help yourself. I will help you. And I always say to people, I won't let you down. I will no way I will let anyone down when they join Allsopp and Allsopp. I won't let you down, but you will let yourself down most likely. So I can't help you with that. There's things every week that will help will go in place. The reality is if people are negative, they're listening to, the wrong things, the wrong information, they're not turning on time, like just stuff like being on time, be dressing the part, looking the part, taking part in these sessions and being willing and want to learn and not just going back downstairs for a cigarette at 9:05. There's lots of little things, but ultimately our responsibility is to forget your behaviours. If you're following our plan, our track record, then we'll give you all the time possible. We'll give you another 3 months, 6 months, and we'll do everything we can to help you. But if you aren't doing that, then real estate it isn't for you. And to be honest with you, honestly, if you can't make it with us, you won't make it anywhere.
What makes you say that with so much certainty?
Because there is so much resource and time and effort and management resource to be allowed for you to have so much, like probably the biggest and most experienced leadership team in all of Dubai. And that's not, forget me and Lewis, I've been doing 25 years. Lewis has been doing 23 years, like 50 years between the two of us. My management team that are on the floor doing it have done this for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years amongst 10, 12 different managers. So if you're getting trained by the best people, incredible trainers, if you're getting all the resources, the unbelievable amounts of data of people with 17 years of working Allsopp and Allsopp, you're getting ongoing training for the very best people in the field, how do you think you're going to make it at somewhere else where the manager's also selling, so he can't give you the time that he needs, the marketing budget is nowhere near what Allsopp and Allsopp is, so it means there's going to be less leads. The quality of people you're working with, nowhere near as good. So if you can't make it with us, let me tell you now, you're probably not going to make it anywhere else. And ultimately, Allsopp and Allsopp is when someone leaves our business and goes to a competitor, it's a trophy for our competitors. They've won because they've got Allsopp and Allsopp. The Allsopp and Allsopp employee is going to fix their problems. Listen, I'm proud of that because I know we train people right, and we have so many success stories of people that earn tremendous amounts of money. And if they go on to pastures new, that's fine. But I know one thing's for sure is we've done everything we can to help them get where they need to be successful. Yeah,
amazing. And look, even the talk that I contributed towards, I mean, it was the first time I'd come in the office, and not just even from a training perspective, you're saying you got all these managers and yourself and you're Lewis, but even the stuff you do around like the wellbeing side of thing, which I think it's not a nice to have, it's a must have. I think any company's not evolving with trying to create the best possible physical and emotional environment to perform is going to get left behind. But how important is that to you and Lewis? Because I mean, I've not seen many offices like that.
I actually link it to culture. So we actually have a specific team dealing with culture events every single month. So it could be physical events, it could be something to do with like mental well-being, whether it's sound healing, which we did a little while ago, which is really cool. But I think physical activity or wellness, or even down to people, this stuff doesn't get spoken about, but we've helped people find help.
What do you mean?
Speak to people, whether it's therapists or whatever, because the reality is it's a troubling environment. Some people might be going through trauma, so me and Lewis are big on making sure that they get to see the right people, and we're pointing in the right directions, and sometimes help fund that as well, because we believe in our team. But physical activity in general, and I think it's really important. We've done boot camps and various different things where we've done the 30-30 Dubai 30-30 last 2 years, where we've had steps competitions, so leaderboards, who's done the most steps. It's been a load of fun. I just think it's really important because in a work environment, it's very stressful. Particularly when you're not on a salary, it's that champagne or razor blades. There's no in between. And trying able to offer something where people can get to see me and Lewis, where we're not in that work and formal environment, and they can actually have a bit of a laugh with us. And it's actually, Carl and Lewis, they're okay actually. They're actually normal people. They're not super strict, super unapproachable people. So that helps. But ultimately, the moving part of things, I think there's so many positives that come from it, whether it's mentally or physically, that drive performance.
Brilliant. Just lastly on business before we talk about life.
Okay.
Are there any particular previous careers that you feel the best agents have came from? Like, have they come from sport? Have they come from hospitality? I'd love to. Have you noticed any patterns that you said about logistics? Generally, people up north can be very friendly and very maybe build rapport better and down to earth, etc. Have you noticed any specific careers that previously people have done and have gone on to be more successful in?
Initially, I wanted to hire estate agents only because I thought, well, they're the people that are most likely to connect and get our business. The honest truth is, an estate agent in the UK, I'm not saying all of them, but a vast majority of them are pretty lazy. They'll wait for the phone to ring, go out and see a client, do their bits and pieces. Not all of them, but a lot of them. There are Charlie King, ex-plumber, probably meant £2 million last year. Jack Bystrom, £900,000 last year, painter and decorator. Robert Kempton worked in the call centre. Darren Murphy was an estate agent. My point being is that the working class or the workman-like career or where you are in the country, I believe, helps a hell of a lot because it has that, that hard-working mentality. It's like, I've got to work. It's not being told to work hard. It's something you do. So, whether it's tradesmen, whether it's, I think there are lots of, there's so many different industries. I think it's about the person rather than the industry they've come from. And I think recruitment is the Rubik's Cube no one can solve. I think it's impossible to say that person's going to do great. And anyone tells me that, they're lying, I think. I think until someone gets here, no matter how good they are on paper and how great you connect with them on the interview, how do they react in a pressure pot of Dubai, in a salary commission-only role, being away from mum and dad, being away from your friends, maybe not earning for 3 or 4 months? How do you deal with that? Some people crack, some people thrive.
Which so much of it comes down to mindset as well. Then flipping it more to the physical, how important it is for the people in your company to be physically fit?
Do you know what? I think you'll agree with me this. Information in general, with Instagram and TikTok or whatever it might be, it's been so much more prevalent, so much more easy accessible now. And I think people are way more aware of looking after yourself. Me, ultimately speaking, when I talk about me, I think it's that close of that feeling of you're nearer to death than life. That makes sense, because you think, I've got to try and do everything I can to prolong what I'm doing here. I think people in the business, let's say someone that's come in the business today at 23, 24, their behaviours are very different to mine and yours at 23, 24.
100%.
There's not much of a drink culture these days, and I think stats and statistics kind of verify that people are not drinking as much as what they did do 10, 20, 20 years ago. So
Agreed.
That's kind of going through the business. The people who are perhaps slightly older, yes, they're drinkers, they're people who enjoy a good time. I'm cool with that, but they're now even more aware that actually I can't do a 5-day hangover, a 4-day hangover, a 3-day hangover, because it affects your Monday and Tuesday, or your Sunday with your children, and your Monday first day at work. So for me, I drink now, honestly, if once, maybe twice a year max, and I don't miss it.
Wow.
Whereas before it was a lot often, because I know I don't get brain fog on a Monday and Tuesday. I feel more energetic.
Did having kids change that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the nail in the coffin for me was about 4 years ago. Christmas party, really drunk, loads of red wine, to the point where we were doing shots on the stage of red wine with the award winners. And the next morning, I must have gone in at 3:30. The next morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock, both my kids hovering over me with Barbies hitting me on the head. And I'm thinking, I'm like, please, like, just kill me, like, get me out of here now. And it was the longest day of my life. So I think from that, I was like, I can't do this again. Like, And I think when I'm drunk as well, you tend to behave a little bit differently. I just think I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. So with that in mind, what does a typical daily structure like for you? Right, you've got business, family, your health and fit, like very organised person you just shared as well. Talk me through a typical day.
Changed from the first 5 years to the last 5 years. The first 5 years in business, the last 5 years, because I think in the first 5 years of business, you can't be so rigid and so structured because you've got to go with how the day goes to try and make sure shit happens. Mm-hmm. But now I'm super conscious to ensure that I'm home with my kids every night. You know, I'm very rarely now working late. If I do work late, I'll go home, have my dinner, say hello to them, and then jump on calls afterwards. But I'll always make sure I'm home and even. Big thing for me is I'm up now 5:30, 5:45 every day without fail, because my kids also get up at that time for school. You know, they go to school a bit early here in Dubai. But I'm up at that time. I'm either out at 6, 6:15 to either go on a morning walk, 6-7K, or go to the gym where I'll spend 90 minutes and wrap up by 7:30, 7:45. Done, go and have a shower, get in the office for 9:15, 9:30, 9:45. It's around that range where I'm at my desk ready to go. I used to be a slave to my desk. I used to think if I'm not in my desk at 8:15, this is a good few years ago now, then I wasn't being productive. But I've actually realised that if I'm as a CEO in at 9:30, 9:15, and I've worked out, I can probably be even more effective in a 3 or 4 hour period than I would have been in an 8 or 9 hour period, knowing I've been to the gym and I've got my mind right. And I've done everything I could have done. So I'm not really a slave to, I've got to be at my desk at this time. I think it's really important when you start in this job, by the way, to have routine. I think the more you're doing it, the more flexibility you get. But I think working out in the morning, non-negotiable, 6 days a week, maybe 5 days if I'm a bit sore. I'm at my desk. Typically between 10 and 1 o'clock is where I have a lot of my operational meetings, whether it's CTO, finance, ops director, marketing, various different things that kind of pop up during the day. Have my lunch, and then in the afternoon I might be doing more proactive stuff to kind of drive the business, whether it's looking at new opportunities, going out and meeting people, doing podcasts, and then obviously wrapping up the day and trying to get home.
So is your morning, from a work perspective, very much, again, high-level meetings and key decision making?
I feel like I'm the most, so I've made that conscious decision to have front load most of my meetings to where I'm most effective.
Yeah.
So, when not everyone does this, but when you have your lunch, it can be that crash, right? In terms of if you've had some food, you're maybe a bit tired, a bit sluggish. So my concept is to make sure all the most impactful meetings are the front part of my day. And then in the afternoon, I'm kind of a bit more free to be a bit more, look for things that perhaps need moving. It might be I just walk around the office and get to just talking to people. Okay. How you get on? What's going on? Okay. Do anything I need to know about? Yeah. So, yeah. Do
you do any specific... because there's so many different strategies out there. I think we spoke about this on Instagram, didn't we? About all the different ways to, all these different productivity routines and things like that. What have you found works best? Do you work back to back for a few hours, then stop, or half an hour at a time, an hour at a time, or is it just pretty much, could that look different each day?
I'll go how I feel. Ultimately, I like to get as much done as quickly as possible, and not to have too many breaks because it kind of interrupts my flow. If I'm in the middle of doing something, I can't be distracted. It's very difficult when you're the CEO of the business because your door is constantly being open for people asking questions. So
and what are your boundaries with that? Because I'm really fascinated by this.
I'd like people to come to see me. I don't want to say I'm too busy. If it's something that's really important, whether it's payroll or something crucial that needs my attention at that point, I'll say, look, can I come back to you in 10 minutes? But ultimately, I want to try and give people time. So it's difficult not to stay focused, but I try and do as much as I can, as quickly as possible, and then kind of be a bit more free from there.
Yeah. Awesome. What we got now? Just a few random questions, mate. I wanted to always ask a question. I thought, you haven't been asked this. What's the worst or most outrageous property listing you've ever come across? You must have seen some mad shit, or just like...
Okay, I'm going to tell you one straight away. First thing that pops in my mind.
Okay.
So people won't get this, but you're watching this because I'm in the UK. I've gone to value a house and meet a guy there. Gone in the house. It's in where is it? Not Stoke-Aldermore. It's
Stoke-Aldermore was where I was brought up, by the way.
No, it's not Stoke-Aldermore. Where it is near the Gallagher Retail Park. It's opposite there. It's near the Adam and Eve pub.
Fossil?
Fossil way.
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
I've gone in to do a valuation. You can imagine 2 up, 2 down. Really narrow, tight terrace house. Looks boarded at the front. Not great condition. Gone in there, met the owner. Yeah, we're looking to sell it. It's probate or whatever's happened. I've got in there, and when I say there's furniture to the ceiling, chairs, tables, sofas, basically can't move them. I've walked around. There is feces in every single toilet up to the brim. When I say hundreds of needles, it was basically a drug den. And I was walking, I was like, I need to get out of here now. It's just like really freaked out. But suffice to say, we didn't put that on the market. But yeah, I went in there, I was very freaked out. It was basically an ex-drug den. It was not a great place. It stunk. It was not a great place. And that was probably one which kind of stuck to mind. There are loads of random houses I put on the market over the years or been to. And you think, what have you done there? Yeah, that's the biggest one.
That has been absolutely horrendous.
I've got a few funny stories, but that's the one where you just think, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here.
100%. And then what you and Lewis has achieved has been outstanding, right? Okay, you made lots of money. I mean, a leader without question over here. What's important to you now? What drives you? What's the mission? Personally, professionally, just
lifting others up around me. I've had the absolute pleasure of retiring my mum, retiring quite recently my mother-in-law. So trying to make other people's lives easier and better around me. I'm in a very fortunate position, touch wood. Dubai has been amazing to me, and it's allowed me to be able to do them things. But just try and even with people in work, try and put them in a position where I always say to people when they join Allsopp Allsopp, this should be the last place you ever go and work ever again. The last place where you're ever employed. So if I can try and help as many people as I can, whether it's work related, whether it's financially, I can and will do that. Particularly my family, it's really important to me. Being able to give my mother-in-law time and freedom now where she's not sitting at the bus stop at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to town, to go to work. That for me meant more to me than any watch, any car, any holiday, because I've seen how much she appreciated it. It's just little things like that these days that probably mean a lot more to me than the materialistic things. And I think when you start on this journey of making money, the material things are often what you crave and what you want, but when you have them, actually they're quite disappointing.
Lewis said the same.
It's not as exciting as what you want. There's a lot of people in our office that crave watches, and I just said, buy your watch, get out your system. But let me tell you, when you buy it, that feeling goes. It doesn't last very long, half an hour, an hour. And it's this feeling in Dubai of wanting to impress everybody. I couldn't give a shit about impressing anyone. I don't care. And me and Lewis's profiles visually on Instagram is very different. He's a little bit more out there. I'm very private. I don't feel I need to share the world with everyone. But ultimately, there's a sense of responsibility to kind of share what I know and
inspire others to share
exactly,
what's possible.
Share what's possible, because it is possible. I when I started out on this fitness journey, and even with real estate, liking to real estate, there was a guy who works in who owns the gym. Actually, I looked at him and said, "How can I? You've got an incredible body. If you got it, why can't I do it?" And that was the same with my mentality of work. With real estate, if you're this good, I can be that good. And it's just trying to kind of let people know that most people in this world are created equal. I get some people aren't. Some people are born into money or disadvantaged with the passport they have. I get that. But most people are born equally, and just by thinking that way, and if you can do it, I can do it, is a tremendous superpower.
Amazing, mate. For any sort of real estates listening back to people looking to get into this real estate, where can they find you? What would be the steps to work within Allsopp and Allsopp? Because I know you're constantly looking to recruit.
Look,
how can they do
if you are looking to get into real estate in Dubai, you're in the UK or another country, or you're in Dubai, I'm telling you now, this is the only place you need to be. We can change your life forever. Allsopp.com. You can check myself out on Instagram, Carl Allsopp, same handle on LinkedIn, Carl Allsopp. Just drop me a message. There's a very good chance I'll get back to you within a few hours. Likewise with Lewis Allsopp Dubai. Our recruitment team, Cameron Hutchinson in particular, our head of recruitment, amazing guy. He'll have a chat to you. Sometimes, by the way, it's not right for everyone, and we'll be equally honest. It's not bums on seats policy. If it's not right for you, we'll tell you. So the very worst thing that can happen by at least sticking your name in our inbox or sending an email out, the worst thing that happen is you wasted 20 minutes of your time just to figure out is it right or not right for you. the best thing that can happen is it could change your life forever.
Amazing. Carl, just want to thank you for your time again. I know you're an extremely busy man. There's some absolute gold there in business and like I said at the start, around life. I mean, it's great to see as well, in spite of all that success, you know, how grounded you and Lewis have stayed as well. And
my friends say that to me, one of my friends, and do you know what's probably one of the things that makes me feel most proud about myself is I'd like to think I'm a normal person, you know, and it's very difficult to have this perception of someone from the outside of you are this way, but I'm a normal guy, I'm a private guy, I'm from Coventry, you know, I like normal stuff like watching Coventry City on a Saturday afternoon.
Is that your thing for fun? We'll end on that. What do you do for fun?
My wife knows between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock, don't speak to me. When Coventry are playing, that is my real get a sense of enjoyment doing that. So listen, like Coventry City, me and Lewis like playing the PlayStation. We're just normal people. You know, we're not showy people. You might look that way, but we're really not. I think, you know, by people saying, you know, your money hasn't changed you, it does change you, of course it does, but I don't think it changes how you treat other people. I don't think that's the case.
Brilliant. And I think anyone listening to this will fully agree with that. Carl, thank you so much. Please check him out. Check Allsopp and Allsopp out. And I'll see you next time.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.